Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever and however you may be listening. This is the Closed Screening Podcast. Joining me tonight, host Zach Chasteen, host Chase Mahan,
That's me.
and I guess I'll call myself also host
That's right.
Nicholas Schuff. And tonight we're here to discuss quite possibly the most anticipated film of 2022, Avatar: The Way of Water. Take it away, boys.
You know what? I think, especially on Twitter, I've seen nothing but I don't even know what the word would just reveling in this or revel in the want of this film to just tank. If you go on any single like thread on Twitter, it's all hate. I've seen nothing but hate.
Look, as a card-carrying member of the Hater Association of America, it warms my heart to hear that. I haven't seen it myself, but I'm very happy to hear that people are preying on this film's downfall. I haven't seen anything about it. The only thing I've seen about it is very little. Just some minor things. Someone said going into it, the only thing you need to know about the first movie is that the dude wanted to sacrifice his whole planet for some pussy. Other than that, I haven't really heard much about it before going in to see it, so I was pretty fresh. Didn't have any outside what's the word? Outside influence. Nicholas, did you go into it completely unscathed? Did you get spoiled?
No, I didn't get spoiled. Going into it, I try to steer away from any sort of advanced reviews or commentary or just what I was coming across on social media, which was pretty hard to avoid. I think for the most part, pre-movie and post-movie watching experience now, I've seen a pretty good mixture of you either love it or you hated it. And if you hated it, you probably hated it before you even went to see it. So
You froze.
I'll leave it. We'll obviously get into our thoughts here.
You're good. No, you're good. You're good. You're good.
All right, here we go.
Oh, Zach's back.
Discussing films Twitter page. I've got 700,000 followers. They just posted Avatar's reach 500 million. The second comment. Well, the first one is "Let's go, huge W" with a picture of Jake, with a comment of a guy sucking a male private part. The second one is "This has to be the biggest money laundering scheme of all time. Who is watching these movies? Middest movie ever, not my Avatar."
I think you hit the nail on the head, Nicholas. Did you love it or hate it? I think that was my entire after seeing this movie and sort of seeking out more review-based content on it. It's been pretty kind of polarizing. Boy, it's either love or hate it.
Most of the people that hate it haven't even seen the movie.
I was listening to a podcast today and they hated it. And they went and saw it. Although one of them was apparently extremely high on edibles and they saw it in 4D. So, I'll say that.
They hated it?
Yeah. They couldn't get their 4D chair to work, so I think that might be. They may have had a sour taste because they couldn't get. I'll just shout The Yard is what I was listening to, Ludwig's podcast, and they were talking about how they couldn't get the 4D chair to work, so he just sat there while everyone else was listeners. I was just bouncing around in my chair.
That doesn't seem enjoyable.
Yeah, for me, I don't think that's what
James Cameron envisioned when he made this film.
Are you telling me he didn't want you to experience Avatar: The Way of Water like the Disney Soarin' ride? Are you telling me that's not what he wanted?
No. All right, Nicholas, it is 9:14 p.m.
Yeah.
Eastern Standard Time. I want a less than 120-second synopsis of this film. Go.
Oh my goodness.
You're already wasting time.
The events of this movie take place, what would we say, 10 to 15 years after the events of the original film. Over the course of that time, Jake Sully, as his now fully realized Avatar character, and Neytiri, his Na'vi wife, they have biologically conceived children, adopted children. They have this small family that have grown old in their Omaticaya clan. I believe that's the tribe's name. And the humans have returned. That's sort of the opening. Within the first 15 minutes, humans are back. And the reason they're back is because Earth is dying, and they are looking to terraform the Pandora planet. And I guess this is a spoiler podcast. We generally get into spoilers. Um, one of the big events that we find out in the first 20, 30 minutes is that the original antagonist from the first villain, Colonel Quaritch, has returned. His memory, his mind was transferred into artificial avatar species. I don't know what you'd call that.
Which,
and so
if they could do that, why weren't they just doing that in the first place?
well,
Hold on,
so
you know what I mean?
Let's let him finish the synopsis.
You're interrupting my
yeah. We'll give you 5. You got 10 seconds.
I'm ready to address that.
Yeah, 10 seconds
Lord.
on the clock. No. You added. I added 10 seconds onto your clock. Is what I'm saying.
Okay, perfect.
There's
So
still about a minute left.
Quaritch is coming after Sully Neytiri for his death, of course, and because of the ends of the first film. They essentially wipe out their home. Sully realizes that in order to protect himself and his family, they must go into exile in the Metkayini people, essentially the water clan of Pandora. And then from there, they learn the way of water. And the Colonel Port, the human, are essentially on a collision path with him and his family. Is that serviceable?
I think that works.
Yeah, you went over.
Perfect.
You owe me some money.
He was about. I think with the interruption, he was
Sorry.
about at 120 seconds.
There
I
we
think
go.
before we get into any discussion, I think we should talk about. I think we should preface by saying, how we felt about the movie. Kind of see if there's some division. See what if we need to debate from sides. I think that would be an interesting way to go about this.
I think you probably have the highest ranking of all of us.
Yeah, let's just go from.
So I know you were flirting with the 9s.
I was flirting with a score of around 9. It gets 2 thumbs up for me. I'm ready to see it again. I wish I had before we had filmed this, but just did not have the time to do it. But after all this time away now, I saw it Friday night.
You're giving it a full 9.
If I have to round it, just to keep it simple, 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10.
Chase, are you? How far off are you on that?
Okay, so coming out of the theater, I was ready to give it like an 8 points, somewhere in the 8s, and then I sat with it. I think me and Emma saw it Saturday or Sunday, I believe. Then I sat with the movie, kind of thought about it a little bit as more of a, as a card-carrying member of the Hater Association. It's down to about a 6.7 for me.
Damn.
Whoa. Whoa. Wow.
Yeah.
Because I'm right at an 8.2.
Yeah, I had some issues that probably might have just been me being dumb, but I had some issues.
All right. Well, that's perfect. We're across the spectrum. That's perfect.
You see, I started off in my head review. I was like, all right, we're gonna start at 10 and we're gonna chisel away at it till we get to a nice ranking. And most of my quarrels with the film come in the first act. I don't know about you, Chase, or
my quarrels are throughout. If I'm being honest, they're this pretty evenly dispersed, I would say. I think the first act was actually the least amount of quarrels I have. Maybe the second act. Maybe the second act had the least amount of quarrels.
I think the second act is definitely where it's gonna it gained me and it's gonna lose some people. So I can see where you might might have been lost, fell off the bus in a way. But I thought the first act was just a little slow. But at the same time, really fast.
So yes, I'm glad you said that because I felt like there was a lot of having to catch up audiences with the details and inner workings and transpired between the events of the first film and today, the 10 to 15 year time period that's passed. However, I did feel like I was like my neck was snapped and I was just like, whoa, what has happened within like the first 10 minutes? Like, boom, here's the family. Oh, wait, the humans are back. Like they have just raised the ground of the rainforest that they were living in. And I was like, whoa, this is too much.
Yeah.
And Quaritch coming back, the recombinant DNA, him being in the Avatar body. okay, this film was wasting no time. The same time, it
Yeah.
was too expository for me. Like there was too much. I don't know.
There was a
Talking.
lot
Mhm.
of a lot
That
of
makes
telling
sense.
and not enough seeing. They really went with the tell don't see aspect. I feel like a lot through this movie.
Yeah, you could tell that James Cameron really wanted to get to all like the water stuff
Mm.
as fast as he could, but there was like what at least a decade worth of in story information that had to be conveyed to the audience. And I think the characters suffer a lot from that in the first act.
I think there's one character in particular who suffers majorly from that, and then throughout the movie
Let
from
me
it
know. Give it to
very.
me. Give it to me. Give
I
it to me.
don't know the names, bro. The oldest son, I think, had no
Yeah,
development throughout the entire film, and spoiler alert, I think his death was completely
it was botched. It was
just it was
horrible.
terrible. I mean,
That's another.
I don't think it was that was my one of my biggest complaints is I feel like it wasn't earned at all. There was no like real gut punch. I was just like, oh, okay, he's
Mhm.
dead, I guess.
Yeah, I think the film it almost falls into the same like pitfalls as the first, because I at sometimes Cameron feels like he's more interested in the world building of this world that he himself has concocted, and doesn't really care much about the secondary and tricary. Is that how you say it?
Tertiary.
Triciary characters. And especially in the first act, the two brothers were not different enough for me to first off know
Same.
that which one was older,
Yeah.
which one was the warrior, and the warrior didn't do enough to show me that he was a good warrior. All he did was fly his little thing down and then almost get his brother killed.
No, he almost got
Or
killed.
was it the other
he
one?
almost
Or-
got killed.
see,
The
I don't-
brother almost got him killed. Yeah.
And the only because I was paying close attention, I only realized that the older brother had 3 fingers, and the younger brother had 4.
I didn't even know that.
I didn't even notice. How the fuck does that work?
Because the younger brother, everyone's like picking on him because he has like the full human digits, but so they can tell that he's like a hybrid. But the
Mhm.
older brother only has 3 fingers and a thumb, like all the other ones, like the real Navi.
Got it.
I
Got it.
thought that was
But
Jake.
that would-
That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense
'Cause
at
I
all.
think-
Got it.
If they're
I
both,
didn't catch that
I think it
detail.
was just like the genetic, like since they were like mixing and matching, it would maybe make sense.
no, but they made that
That-
they made that a plot point when the
They
kids
made it
get
a plot point for the
abducted.
little brother,
Yeah, I know, but if the older
and
brother,
that's why he was getting picked on.
well,
So I
it was
think
also
it's assumed that the older brother had it easier
well,
because he was able to assimilate better.
but
I think we should have been
my problem with that.
Shown
My problem
that.
with that is that when Quaritch and the other marine avatars first encounter and abduct the children, they are checking if they have 4 fingers to see if they are hybrids, if they are Sully's kids. And
Okay, because the little one, I'm looking at a picture right now. The little one, what's the little one's name?
Cook.
Cook.
That was the only one
The
I
little
remember.
girl, she has 4 fingers.
So if her and the younger brother have 4 fingers, I assume oh god, whatever the scientist, I'm forgetting, Sigourney Weaver's
I think
daughter.
Kid.
Like
Did
the
they call
oldest.
her Kitty?
Harry.
Hold on.
Oh yeah, that's right. But I feel like if they're all hybrids, then shouldn't the oldest also have 4 fingers? That's what's throwing me for a loop.
That's what I thought. I thought they all had 4 fingers, so I wasn't even paying attention.
I'm
to...
trusting Zach being able to just. Although it could just be that the character was so fucking poorly explored that Zach just mistook him for somebody else.
No, it was the brother because I was counting. Because I'm looking at a picture of the daughter, the little daughter. It's a screen of her swimming in the water, and she has 3 fingers and a thumb.
I'm pulling pictures up on my phone.
Go on the IMDb. It's the second one. And then you go over to the younger brother. And he has
definitely
1,
has
2, 3,
4.
4, 5. 5 fingers.
Or 5.
Yeah, the oldest brother has 4 fingers, three fingers and
There
a
he
thumb
is.
as well.
There it is.
I'm looking at a picture of him and Jake when he's pulling the bow back. And Jake has 5 fingers. Yeah, I don't get what the fuck does that mean? Does that mean he wasn't even Jake's son?
No, I think that just means like
I just think like my whole thing is
since Jake is like a human in this like avatar body,
Right.
There's a chance that he will pass on some of his human DNA.
Correct.
Which is again like I needed that to be more explained because it would help to show the brothers' rivalry, or like what's the younger brother's name? I wrote it down. Loak, 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 Loak.
What's the
Like
older
his
brother's name?
struggle with Netdemum.
Netayam. Yeah, Netayam. I don't know. It's coming back to me.
But again, like Cameron's obsession with this world makes it us forget the names of the characters.
I just
What's the bad guy? What's the bad guy in Star Wars name? The new one?
You talking about Andor?
No, 789. What's the bad guy's name?
Snoke.
And
Palpatine.
And the main guy, Kylo Ren. We all know these names. We know everybody. What is the name of the leader of the Water Tribe's name? Anybody?
Tonowari?
I swear to God, if you beat, why the fuck?
What's the queen? Can you name all his kids' names?
No. The queen is Renal, and the daughter is Tsurya. Just Tsireya, something. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Do you have it written down?
Are you reading it right now?
No, my phone's blank. I just remember
Oh, you got a good memory. Because...
Damn.
I can't remember the clans' names though. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I understand your point. I completely understand your point.
Yeah, and again with Act 1, I know we already talked about Quaritch, but I wasn't sure if that was the right decision when they showed me that he was going to be the villain again. I was like, okay, I mean, we already saw Jake versus him, so that leads me to believe that the next one, I know I texted you about this, but I think that Quaritch will be going up against Jake's woman. What's her name? The mom.
Yeah, Neytiri.
Yeah, I think there is a very purposeful point in the end of the third act when they keep showing her arrows and the tips of, or I guess what's the back of an arrow called?
The feather. I don't know.
The feather part, where they show the arrow, the back of the arrow, and then Quaritch, and I think he's now either gonna realize that he needs to kill her first, because she arguably is the more skilled warrior and is a native, so she can inspire more people, or he's just gonna have a vendetta against her because she's technically the one that killed him.
Yeah. I would like to point out for a second that I thought that was a very cool little storytelling trick throughout the movie. How that was just the identification of that arrow by Quaritch every time was just a cool little way to sort of build that tension and really kind of, I don't know, when it got to the climax of that film, like the final battle, and he recognizes that arrow again, I was like, oh shoot, what's gonna happen next? Like I was just waiting for that shoe to drop. I thought that was cool.
I will say one thing this movie does have going for it that I genuinely really appreciated was that the tense moments were definitely very tense. But even though, there was definitely times where I was kind of like, oh God, is Took gonna die, or is whatever, and then for them to kill off the character with the least amount of like I don't know what the right word is, least amount of character development in this film just kind of made all the tension fall flat in the end. I think that's why it sat so badly with me, because at the end I kind of realized like there wasn't really any stakes.
But I mean, if Cameron wanted to kill off one of the kids, you can't kill off.
No, I'm aware of why
the younger son.
I know why he did
it. The literal 7-year-old, and then the adopted daughter. She's got her own story that needs to be answered.
I'm fully aware of why he did it. I just wish that they would have developed him more so that it would have hit a little harder, or it felt a little.
He was certainly the Mary Sue character for the purpose of getting the younger brother to have his sort of character arc, which I personally actually I didn't mind it.
It just felt
Just
very
because
it felt very hollow to me.
Well, I think more than his death per se, because I wasn't expecting any of the kids to die. Because I was like,
yeah, I wouldn't
okay,
either.
if there's gonna be 7 avatars, I feel like the kids are gonna be where it like leads into eventually. So when he got shot, I was like, oh, he's just gonna go back and they're gonna have to fight on without him. But I think where his death really falls flat is, why can't I remember her name? The mom,
Neytiri.
Neytiri.
Is her reaction, because it's supposed to be this heartfelt, like, my oldest child has been taken from me and I'm in so much pain, but they really don't interact the entire movie. And Zoe Saldana's literally doing nothing in this whole movie except for screaming. So she acts it well,
Yeah.
but it's almost like you didn't really seem like you give a crap about him, except for in the very beginning when he almost died. And you barely ever talk to him, only to tell him to go save his little brother. So I think for me, that's where the death kind of fell flat, and then everyone else was just kind of standing there.
Yeah. I guess the only reason that it worked for me so much is because I guess I took it just as well. This is just to further Loak, the younger brother's character, like that was his moment to sort of step up to the plate or just change the family dynamic, especially if you start to consider these movies as a true trilogy. I guess much in the same way that we had thoughts about The Last Jedi when it was initially released without Rise of Skywalker. I'm sure that by the time we get to Avatar 3 and 4 and 5, if those are made, that we'll be looking back on this moment a little bit differently. Maybe not.
So before we move into Act 2, I want to talk about the themes of just imperialism and insurgencies and that sort of stuff.
Take it away.
If I was a fan of the American military, if I was a staunch supporter of the U.S. military budget, I would be rather upset with how my Marines were portrayed in this film. I do not think James Cameron has much love for America as a country, almost, let alone the military that is leading the expedition to terraform a planet, which seems like an American thing to do, but not the way that you would go about terraforming a planet that you wanted to settle on. I think you'd bring the scientists up first, and then maybe the military after that. And I do think it's very interesting the language that is it just supposed to be the United States, or is it human race?
I think it's human race. I
I
don't
think
think it's ever actually,
because they're
explicitly
Marines,
said.
and they all are Americans. So I don't know if it's ever. I'll need to watch it again, but it's very interesting that, like, they use like, oh, Jake Sully is an insurgent. He's leading a rebellion, and I mean, it's obviously this whole world of Pandora is shaped after the natives of North and South America, and obviously the water tribe is like Samoan, Polynesian. So all the people that developed countries took away land, he's paralleling it. And I think it's very interesting that the Marines are, excluding Quaritch, because obviously you gotta give a little characterization to your main antagonist, but all the Marines are your textbook, like, Marines, the crew cut, the sunglasses, portrayed as sort of meatheadish, disposable. And now that we know that these guys can basically never die, they're immortal now. I wouldn't be surprised if we went bigger and saw 3 Quaritches next time, all the same person. And
it's funny that you mentioned all this, because it was like, I think that a lot of what you're talking about with the military and sort of the environmentalist aspect and the terraforming of a planet because the Earth is dying, it worked for me, but it was also at the same time so contrived and
Yeah,
cliche.
it's
Just
a
because
bit it's heavy-handed and maybe a bit too
yeah,
much.
right. It's like
Um,
I got a lot of that from the first film, and this one we just kind of turn up the dial a little bit. Turn it up to 11, but
no.
it didn't do anything new. It didn't do anything wrong, but it's just like a little cliche.
Yeah. But at the end of the day,
It was fun.
Pandora's just another plump little spoil ripe for pillaging.
I love how
Um,
we went from the unobtainable. I think isn't that what it was called?
Unobtainium.
Unobtainium. The
Which
unobtainium to this uh, whale enzyme that is a de-ager, which we didn't really utilize in many ways. Like it played its part in one little scene, and then we kind of ignored it.
um, again, I think you hit on a good point of like this is literally movie 2 of
Right.
4 because the way he's talked about 4 is that's 4 is the end of this sort of like story. So
Right.
I think we shouldn't be bashing some of the unknown details of what's the new aspects of this world that he's building out. But it as of right now, it's definitely it's like you showed us this, and if they're harvesting these serum, why weren't the Avatar people getting mad before? But now they're getting mad. Where the ones that they
Yeah.
were harvesting it from before weren't bonded with the other tribes? And if they were, wouldn't it have spread back like the word? I don't know. It was cool though. It's kind of gross, but it was cool.
No, I agree.
Um,
Yeah.
but anyway, moving back into Act 2, Sully and Co. The big old family packed up their bags, hopped on their little flying birds, and flew to the sea. Um, I know Chase, I think you have a different opinion, but I thought Act 2 is where I thought the movie really like hit its stride. We were done with the forest that we marveled over 10 years ago, and now we're into something new to marvel. And I had to pee. Did any of you guys pee in the 3 hours?
I peed right after they got kind of like accepted into the water tribe, and they did. I'm assuming they did a little montage of them learning the way of water. That's when I went to pee. I couldn't hold it anymore.
I was strong-willed.
I
Whole
couldn't do
thing.
it. I couldn't do it.
Because I was so almost I was so disinterested in the Quaritch Marines plotline after Jake Sully and his crew weren't in danger. I was like, next scene that they're in, I'm running to the bathroom. So I left when he was trying to tame his little pterodactyl thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then Abigail just whispered, just what happened. I was like, okay.
I left
It's like,
when I went to pee. Was like I said right when they started doing like I guess I was assuming it was like a montage of them learning the way of water before. I think it was before Quaritch and his pterodactyl and stuff. And I came back. I was only gone maybe 5 minutes, and I sit back down next to Emma, and I'm like, "What I missed?" And she goes, "Oh, nothing." So I don't know what I missed, but it in her eyes was not very
Well,
important.
I think I think you hit the nail right on the head on that because Act 2 is a lot of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like the plot steps backwards and says we're going to show you this entire new world, these new people. Let's marvel at this 20 I don't know when they probably finished this movie in 2020 and polished it up. This new decades worth of technology that we've been perfecting since the first one. And let's just watch our characters we've known in our meeting swim around for an hour and a half, maybe an hour. But I personally liked the second half and third half of this movie more than I liked the entire first movie and the first act of the second one. I was bored of the forest. We've seen alien forests before, so I thought it was pretty cool to see a beach tribe of an alien species.
because it's the second act that it's like you mentioned, Zach. We get away from what we know. We finally get to the part where from a technical standpoint, we want to see, like, as the audience members, that like I wanted to watch this film for the visuals and for what the technology's achieved. Like, obviously, that was a marvel for us. But for me, what I loved about this is that here we could finally take a step back and get into the character moments. The thing that was lacking
Hmm.
for me the most in that first film, in that first act, let me slow down and get to know these characters. Of course, fell in love with the children, with the exception of the older brother, as we've already mentioned. Like, I came to love the younger brother. I really started to care more for Sully's character, and I
Hmm.
love the fact that I was able also to take a step back and kind of re-examine who this character was in that first film, this very rash, reckless man who would just leap into whatever dangers that he could get himself into, to this character that is much more world weary, trying to be very much reserved, fit into this reef culture, try to make sure that his kids kind of stay in line. Like, that, obviously, being a father has a different dynamic. It was nice for me to kind of
Hmm.
engage with that, engage with him. I love to see, obviously, the differences in the culture, the uh, Metkaina, Omatakaya. That's the part. I mean, like you mentioned, I loved it. I loved the younger brother's interaction with the Tolkien. I mean, I was blown away. That second act, it's like I was watching a whole different movie. It was
Hmm.
awesome.
And I think the theme of fatherhood really starts to creep up on you in the second half of, I guess, the second act of the film. Because we haven't talked about Spider yet, the baby that was left
Yeah.
on Pandora after the first film, and he couldn't go into cryo sleep, so he was left on Pandora with the scientist. Turns out he's the son of Quaritch, and Jake and Quaritch kind of parallel each other in a way, because Quaritch even says, like, I'm technically not your father. I'm a copy of your father, so you really mean nothing to me. But at the end of the day, he felt a lot more fleshed out, because in the first one he was just this military meathead trying to kill all the blue people. But in this one he was much more, I don't know, subtle in his and it was much more of a personal journey for him, not an order. Like, he wanted to kill Jake like, to avenge himself in a way, not
Yep.
to not because General whatever told him to. And then you see he finds out his son has been raised by Jake, and it's a very interesting journey that those two go on together. And by the end of the film, do you think Jake will take on responsibility of his son's death? Do you think he pushed his sons too hard, and that caused them to plunge headfirst into danger multiple times? Will we see repercussions in the third movie? Or will Jake even take one more step further back as a pacifist and remove his family from danger even more?
Is that rhetorical? I don't
No,
know. I
what
really
do you
don't.
think?
I I don't know. It's interesting because I feel like those are questions that we're supposed to ask. But my hot take there is that I'm tempted to say that none of that will even be addressed by the time we get to the third film. Like, we won't get an answer one way or the other. I don't know if James Cameron will answer that.
Because I personally think that this third one will pick up almost immediately after.
Mm.
Um,
So,
and go
uh,
ahead.
I think personally that we probably will not get a definitive answer. But if I had to speculate, I don't think he's going to self-examine and think, "Oh, I pushed these kids too hard." I think a lot of his moments with the kids were him more so kind of being harsh, but in a way of like keeping them out of danger. And I don't think if anything, he might examine and say, well, I should have done more to keep these kids safe. I should have done more to.
Hmm.
I think if anything, he might go into more of a pacifistic role.
Yeah,
But then
but I
that's
think
completely contradicted with his last line of the fucking film, where he's like, "I got to fight for my home." So, uh, you know what? Maybe Nicholas is right. I don't think we're gonna see shit. I don't think he's gonna be. I think
I
he learned nothing.
well we have to remember that 3 has already been filmed.
Right.
So the kids are still. Have you seen the pictures of what the kids look like now, as
Mhm.
opposed to what they look like when they were motion capturing?
Mm-mm.
When you have some time to look it up, they've aged at least like 5 years.
Mm.
But I predict we can, if we're all still alive in 2 years when this next one comes out, we can reconvene. But I think that Neytiri will be the one that is the more militaristic, pushing for the death of all the humans, and maybe with the help of her son, who is facing some survivor's guilt, some imposter syndrome, because
Mm-hmm.
he's now thrust into that older child role that he was obviously never thought that he would have, nor he probably doesn't think that he can live up to that.
I hope so. Like I will say this, I hope you're correct, because those are the moments that I wanted those moments in this film. Like by the end, I had no idea that Quaritch was going to end up, spoiler, obviously living. I totally expected Neytiri or the younger brother to kind of have that final kill.
Which
Like that would make me feel good. Like it make me feel like that moment is earned. So I want that.
so you didn't like the fact that he survived?
No, I didn't.
'Cause
I really didn't.
I did, because we already saw that in the first one. We already saw him die. So, and we already saw Neytiri kill
Yes,
him.
I guess my initial problem, and correct. Which would I know, but it would have been so cool for her to just to do it again, just to murk him twice, right?
But
Like that would
I
have been
think
so
I think that's where it's heading. But
right.
I
Well,
do
I'll
think
say
that
this:
there was no
I
reason to
have
kill him, because they would just bring him back.
correct. Well, so I have turned the corner here on this perspective, because initially one of my biggest gripes was, okay, you bring him back. I don't want to see this character like be the antagonist for every film. Like I think that would be kind of boring to me. Now I have sort of come around to this idea, you know what? Let him be this overarching antagonist, because obviously we have a lot of character growth with him and Spider alone to make this worthwhile. I'm actually okay for him to continue
You
living.
see,
I was not a big fan of that initially.
I don't think he will end up being the antagonist. I think something, I could be completely wrong here. I don't see Spider defecting over to the human side, so I think he may end up defecting, and then we get some ultra boss coming from Earth to like settle it all once and for all in movie 4. Because I'm gonna go bold. I'm gonna say 5, 6, and 7 are not gonna get made.
Yeah, I don't think so. Probably not.
I'm be honest, in my opinion, I think if he defects and we get some kind of ultra boss come from Earth, I will be very upset unless it's handled like perfectly. I think that could be very like that could come off extremely like lazy if it's just like,
Yeah.
oh, here's somebody who's even worse. I really think that Quaritch is actually, I think he's he's one of the highlights of this film for me. I think he's a really good villain. I think his character growth is one of the better parts of this film, and I think he's very easy to hate. And then at the end of it, you're kind of like, you still hate him, but it's not so much. It's kind of like a respectful hate. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, I think that we may see some sort of new bad guy come in, because he will definitely face some sort of repercussions, because he first stole that like fishing vessel, like commandeered it, and then since he's commanding officer, he's responsible for the fact that it was destroyed. All of his soldiers are dead. All that crew are dead. So I do think that there might be some repercussions where somebody else steps in front of him. Then either he'll get even more hardened and more villainous, or he may, well, he's not leading the charge against the Navi people. He may see that this is not what I want to do, because in the back of his mind, he'll say, is my son there? Am I going to be killing my son? Are we going to be ordered to shoot my son?
I think if it is to happen where he switches over, I do think the thing that I'll be most interested in is his motivation in switching. If it is, I think I would be hard pressed to suspend disbelief that he has suddenly come around on the fact that what he was doing was wrong and that he wants to fight with the Navi. I think it would be extremely unearned for him to have a complete shift
Yeah.
in perspective.
Well, I mean, I think we saw a little bit of that when he's learning the language with Spider.
Yeah,
Not a lot, but he it would, because he tells his men that they need to live like the Navi. And how long can you pretend to be something you're not until you actually believe that you are? So, but all of his friends are dead, so we'll have to see what happens.
Yes.
I
I
think
will say though, to that point, I did not feel as if those moments. Well, let me say this: I essentially with the climax there at the end of the film, where Spider is being held by Natiri, right, knife up to the throat because Quaritch has Took. I think wasn't it Took or Kiri? I can't remember which one of the girls that he had knife to the throat.
Kiri.
And then
Yeah.
Kiri, thank you.
Which
And then
I
we
thought
have
that
that
was
moment.
completely out of character for Neytiri to do that.
Um, correct. However, I let it slide because of the sort of rage she was going through, essentially because her son had just died before her eyes. Like I felt like that was just the
Well, that, and they also
uncontrolled rage that needed to happen.
they set up with a one-off quote that she was always wary of Spider.
Yeah. Also,
Oh, that's true.
another thing on Spider, when y'all watch the trailers, I thought that he was like another one of his kids that was just like born human.
That's what I was thinking. I didn't think it'd be some random kid that showed up on the ship, or like.
And I was like, damn, Spider got a bad deal of being born and not being able to breathe.
So in that moment where they're kind of at standstill, and then right Natiri cuts his chest, and then that's where you see Quaritch kind of have that moment of like, oh shoot, actually, wait, hold on a second. I'll let Kiri go, you let Spider go. I personally did not feel like that moment was earned because I felt like it was the whole film. We were doing that dance with Spider and Quaritch, like, oh, we're kind of bonding. I'm teaching the language or assimilating, but also those moments of, wow, you're burning down the reef villages. I hate you. I'm sabotaging the mission. Like there's this back and forth, which that was fine. I just didn't feel like it culminated in earning that moment at the end. That did not work for me. That particular moment, I don't know. So that may have contributed to my initial decision of not liking Quaritch to stay alive either, because obviously Spider saved him.
On a slight tangent, card-carrying member of the Hater Association, I thought Spider's performance was the worst of this film. I think he was the worst. I'm not saying, okay, I want to make it very clear. I'm not saying he's a bad actor. I think he was the worst in the film. You can be the worst player on a championship team. You're still on the team, but you're the worst.
I think part of that is, in our minds, we have a sort of suspension for disbelief when we see these blue people running around hissing. But when we see like a human doing it, you're like, that's kind of weird. It's kind of cringe.
Well, not even that. It was to me, I mean, that to some degree was true for me, but also just the way he was. It felt very, I don't know, like a little contrived of him being like, "That's not how you say it, dumbass." Like, it just felt very like it made me cringe. I guess just the way he delivered some lines like that were kind of cringeworthy for me.
It's not ridiculous. It's not ridiculous. I agree. That's not a ridiculous take. I agree, Chase. I'm with you.
Yeah. But to finish off on Act 2, I thought that it was almost video game-esque of when we like entered this new area, like when you play
doing side quests,
the sequel to a video game, and you're like, all right, what can we do differently? And then you realize it's completely different. Or I'm about to hype up God of War Ragnarok. There's a section in the game when you've gone through all the realms that you can explore, and then there's this random side quest where you're tasked to follow this pig. And if you choose to follow this pig, it opens up this ginormous new area that is not in the main story. And if you don't follow that pig, you'll never see it. And it's completely different from everything else we've ever seen. And I was like, damn, it's kind of like Avatar.
I'll take your word for it. I haven't played it.
Thought I had to share that. So let's move into Act 3, which is basically one ginormous action sequence.
it.
This was
Top Gun's a fraud, so I'm gonna crown this the best action sequence of 2022.
I would agree. I think this was my favorite act of the film, minus the son's death.
Yeah, we already talked about the son's death. I thought it was probably some of the best CGI ever put to film.
Mm-hmm.
There were a few backdrops throughout the film that looked a little weird, little funky. But other than that, everything that needed to look perfect looked perfect. The fighting was cool. It always throws me off when everyone's using bows and arrows and spears, and then Jake is flying around with a freaking machine gun.
Yeah.
Which you think he would figure out how to use one of those weapons, because they seem to be more effective in this world.
Strangely enough, this is
because they're all deadly accurate, and the arrows are 6 feet tall.
It's really you're shooting them with a fucking ballista every time you draw that bow as an avatar.
Yeah. But by the end of the film, where I talked about it, the film leaves our characters in a pretty even though it's a somewhat of a comforting ending when you take a step back and look at it from like a macro perspective. They're in a pretty shitty place because the Earthlings know exactly where they are now. If we were going on the theory that they can just replicate the Marines, which I hope it's just you can put their DNA in once into an avatar body and then that's it.
I think that's what I'm fairly positive that was kind of what they had set up. Because he said that, like, you had your collection of my memories that have been grown, like get put into one thing and grown. I think.
So any Marine that died that wasn't an avatar, but couldn't you just keep backing up your mind? I don't know. Either way, the Marines are pissed. They're gonna be coming. So I am excited for the third one. I don't know about y'all. Chase, what about you? I know Nicholas is probably gonna be excited.
I'm excited. I despite a 6.7 rating, or whatever it was, 6.8, 6.7. I enjoyed this movie. I thought visually it was stunning, and I am genuinely excited for the third. I think I just personally don't like the way Cameron tells stories, and I think I just have to accept that when I watch the third and just take it for what it is. And I think there'll be a lot more action, so I think the kind of dude bro part of my brain is extremely hyped for this.
Yeah, I definitely think that we need to give Zoe Saldana more to do in this next film.
I would agree.
Which I don't think James Cameron's not an idiot. He knows what he's working with and the talent that she has. So I'm assuming, especially since they're shot back to back, that it's basically one ginormous story.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure that we'll see a lot more of her. I'm excited to see what's going on with Kiri and her sort of, I don't know, the telepathic.
Her connection with Eywa?
Yeah, her connection with the mother god of
Eywa, yeah.
Gaia, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And because it seems like, what was Sigourney Weaver's character's name in the first one?
Dr. Augustine.
Dr. Augustine. I mean, she somehow figured this out, and
I wonder if we ever find out who Kiri's father is, because I have a theory.
I bet she was conceived by the planet.
That's what I was thinking as well. I was thinking that somehow Dr. Augustine found a way to inseminate herself. Yeah.
And my one hope is that Spider gets his own avatar body.
I was thinking the same thing.
I do think that that would be an interesting way to put Spider on the side of the humans if Quaritch offers him a chance to get his own, like, true body in a way.
Right.
And I think Loki, whatever you say the younger son's name. Loki.
Hey.
Loki.
I think his guilt is gonna be ravaging him in the next one.
I would agree.
Maybe
I need the romance with him and Soraya, whatever the Chonawari's daughter is. I need the romance to blossom.
I wonder what their babies would look like between the two races. Would it have a long
mixed.
tail?
It'd probably be
color-
kind of
what
What color would it
be
be?
kind of a grab like a hodgepodge of genetic traits. If I had to guess, like they may have the thinned arms and a thin tail or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do think that this film definitely opens up a whole like sub-genre of Avatar movies of like we'll go to this place and meet these people who live in this circumstance. Like we have the rainforest and now we have the ocean.
It's
We
probably gonna
can
be some
have
like
the
some
plains or the
some like yeah.
mountains, the temperate forests,
Okay, now we're
the
getting a little too niche.
deserts.
10 years from now,
Yeah.
we'll get our Avatar Disney Plus series.
For sure. I
Um,
fully
But
expect it.
have y'all watched any of the James Cameron like interviews and stuff?
No, I've just
I've seen a
couple.
little bit and read some stuff.
I've seen some quotes on
Um,
Twitter of him self-sucking about the movie.
You know, I do think that this is the best movie he's put out since Terminator 2. I'm not a big fan of Titanic. I think Titanic was indulgent. If you think this movie's indulgent, I would much rather
Yeah.
watch 3 hours of a made-up universe that came out of somebody's mind than
Yeah.
a romance on a fit ship. But he was talking about how like the studio, I don't know the exact numbers, but he said when he handed them the script for 2, they gave him 10 pages of notes, and then
I saw
for
this.
3 he gave him 3 pages, and then 4 it was just like
Holy
a single
fuck.
word, like holy fuck.
Yeah.
And he
That
was like,
was
"Where are the notes?" And he's like, those were the notes." So
Gets me
I
hyped.
mean, obviously he's his own biggest hype man,
as
Yeah.
but
a hater and a cynic. I am very worried for the fourth if all they hit back with was holy fuck. I think that's a little
hey,
concerning.
we've already Chase, you went on the podcast, but we already settled our grievances with James Cameron. I know I did.
Yeah. Used to be massive James Cameron haters. Massive.
It's
I'm just-
because
I'm a late bloomer for my James Cameron hate arc, I guess.
I don't know. I think I was more just mad because he put out some of the greatest movies, action movies of the 80s and 90s, and then he's put out Avatar and then said,
I'm gonna get in my
"Going to work on
submarine.
that for the rest of my career."
I'm gonna hop in my submarine and go down to the bottom of the ocean.
Also, a new this is just a complete tangent. But did you know that he was probably the last person to hear about 9/11 because he was at the bottom of the ocean looking at the Titanic when like the attack happened? So if you watch Ghost of the Abyss, which is the documentary on how he researched for the Titanic with Bill Paxton, he like comes up and everyone's standing around and they're just like, and he's like, "What happened, guys?" And they're like, they tell him, and he was like, "Oh fuck."
I think I've seen a sketch about this exact story.
Speaking of Titanic, they're about to do a National Geographic special in February. How they're going to prove that Rose and Jack could not fit on the same plane.
A mini documentary, James. He's producing that.
This is what we're doing with our time and money, I guess.
I mean, I think he's had enough.
He's had enough. People have been asking.
On a little tangent.
He can retcon this whole thing.
Titanic 2.
It's just Rose floating on a plank, reminiscing it's like the life of Pi.
No, it's Jack goes down, and the Avatar people from the new tribe rescue him.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Last thing I'm gonna say, switching gears entirely to our other famous filmmaker that we've talked about, Steven Spielberg. I for some reason my local Regal Cinemas is not showing The Fabelmans, so I had to go to my local cinema Draft House and pay $18 to watch The Fabelmans. But all I'll say about it is if you're an avid listener of the podcast, you knew my hatred for West Side Story and the fact that he abandoned his project on Indiana Jones 5 to make West Side Story. But we got The Fabelman too, and all is forgiven. What a nifty film. A beautiful film.
There you
Touching.
go. More recs. More recommendations for audience members.
I gave that one an 8.6. So, do we say Spielberg wins the 2020s already? No, I don't. You can't even compare the two films. They're so vastly different.
So different.
Anything else?
You want to do our classic bit? Well, Nicholas, I'll let you go, but I guess I'll just finish this thought.
Oh,
The classic bit of
oh,
what we've been doing, what we've been watching, as we do either at the beginning or end of every episode.
Sure.
yes, I would love that. But I will say first, I will close just the last blurb I'll have about Avatar: The Way of Water. As I mentioned at the beginning, for me, it gets a 9 out of 10. We really didn't speak too much to the visuals. It's hard to do, obviously. That's a visual medium, but it's awesome. It's worth it for that alone. Go see it at the biggest IMAX 3D. I think the second time I want to watch it, I want to go bigger, bolder. I want to experience it in that way. I really, as much as James Cameron, especially for these Avatar films, has been ragged for the non-existent storyline that he's given us, I really did have a connection to these characters. I thought that many of them had their own mini arcs within this movie. I cannot wait to see how their arcs unfold over the course of the rest of the sequels. I did see Cameron compare these Avatar films, this trilogy or series of films, to the Godfather trilogy, in the sense that it is supposed to be a generational family story. So I'm seeing it from the bigger picture. I'm appreciating it for what it is, not what it did not give me. And I just think everyone should see it. I really do. Audience members, whether you hate James Cameron or not, go see it just to see it. If you did not enjoy the first one, maybe you won't enjoy the second one. Maybe you will. But I think there's
I'd say
I think there's
if you're gonna
something
be
here for
hating on it,
everybody.
go see it. If you're gonna be hating on it, you got to see it first.
So that's where I'll leave it. That's where I'll leave it.
So, have anybody watched anything good? I got 2 movies that I'll address. 3 movies actually.
Well, since the last recording, the only film I have seen is Avatar 2. Until today, work has been very slow and working from home, so I've been sitting on my computer. I've normally just been watching Twitch streams and YouTube videos in the background, but I was scrolling TikTok and I saw a clip from a nice little documentary on Hulu called Too Funny to Fail, which is about the Dana Carvey show and the one season that it had on ABC. And so I sat down, sat my computer next to me, and pretended to work for an hour and about 40 minutes while it happened, while I was on. If you're my boss, I worked the whole time. But
Of course.
I thought it was awesome. I'm a big fan of comedy and sketch comedy, and I mean Dana Carvey's he's a legend. And then I didn't know that show was basically what spawned Stephen Colbert and Steve Carell's careers. So just watching it, learning about the history of the show, just as someone who's also a major fan of kind of counterculture and counterculture humor, I loved it. I was not super aware of the Dana Carvey show before watching this documentary, and I honestly, might be a hot take. I think some of the absurdist and counterculture humor in that show has directly influenced some of the people in our generation who are making the most abstract, weird shit on like TikTok, and it's you just got to watch it. It's really good.
Interesting.
Groovy.
Interesting. Nicholas, you watch anything? You had time to do anything? I know work's wrapping up, so you may not.
Yeah, actually. So 2 things I'd draw attention to that I've seen recently. Finally got a chance to watch Knives Out. I was late to
Second
the
one
party on
comes
that
out
one.
in 2 days.
Yeah, so it was perfect timing. I thought it was great. It's definitely subverted my expectations. Every time I thought it was going to zig, it zagged, which was great. That's what I want out of a film like that. Thought it was great. And then the final thing was on Netflix. David Letterman's been doing very irregularly his My Next Guest specials, and he was actually able to get into Ukraine, where he interviewed President Volodymyr Zelensky, and I thought it was fantastic. He was a previous actor, much in the same way Reagan was before he was president. So his charisma in front of the camera was fantastic, and a lot of good insight for those who want some real world stuff.
Interesting.
So I've enjoyed both of them.
Did we talk about The Menu? Did I talk about that last time I was on?
I don't think
I
so.
went and saw The Menu. Basically, you're run of the mill. I'm the killer, and I brought you all here for a reason that I will explain as the movie unfolds. How each one of you has wronged me. With the interesting little restaurant, fine cuisine twist to it. 3 stars, 3 out of 5 stars. I watched A Christmas Story Christmas.
Oh
I don't
no.
know if y'all have seen A Christmas Story.
I watch it every year with my family. Every year for Christmas.
Let me tell
Would you recommend it?
This
Let me
doesn't
tell
seem
you.
good.
I would recommend A Christmas Story,
Oh no.
but I would
Oh,
not
no.
I would not wish A Christmas Story Christmas on my worst enemy.
I remember I watched another film. Go ahead. I go ahead.
It ruins everything that you may love about the first one. There's no nostalgia.
Oh, great.
All there is bad acting and bad set design. And a bad story.
Hmm.
And finally, I
Noted.
watched Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. And what a treat. If you're looking for a good stop motion movie, go turn it on. Just have some fun with it. Good acting, great
Score?
stop motion. Some of the best stop motion I've ever seen. Some of the smoothest stop motion I've ever seen. I don't know if Chase, I know you're an animation stop motion guy.
I am.
Would you like that? Would you like that in a stop motion film, or would you prefer the more clunky?
So when you said that, I was thinking about. At first, I was very excited about it, but I think there's something so stylish about the kind of bespoke nature of stop motion films. Kind of how you can definitely see that it was done by hand, and I think I'd have to see it to really form an opinion, because like in my eyes, the 2 greatest stop motion films of all time are The Fantastic Mr. Fox and Isle of Dogs.
And Chicken Run.
No, fuck. Shaun the Sheep is better than Chicken Run, but the Wallace and Gromit, in the case of the Were Rabbit, is better than both. Anyway,
but I gave it a 7.9.
Yeah, I'll definitely watch it. I love Guillermo del Toro.
But
I love his mind. I love the way his mind works.
It's definitely it's not your Disney Pinocchio either. So if you've only known Pinocchio through Disney, then I think you'll have some fun watching a different rendition of the same character.
Is it better than the Pinocchio with I think it was starring Pauly Shore that came out that was getting memed on TikTok? I don't know if you ever watched that.
Don't know what you're talking about, but yes,
you never saw the clip where it was like, "Father, I want to go out on my own." It was very zesty.
Yeah.
I watched the trailer for that, and that was enough.
Yeah, there is something interesting about our society that we keep going back to Pinocchio. What is it about Pinocchio that people want to? Like A Star Is Born. There's 4 A Star Is Born films. What is it about that story that?
Probably because we've gone back to the well on everything else.
Yeah, I was about to say
it's 4 times. We were remaking A Star Is Born in the 80s, and then in the 50s.
Fair enough.
Don't know.
Chase, what was that last movie you had?
I watched. Actually, I forgot because there was one movie I hadn't seen and 2 movies that I rewatched. All with Emma just on the couch, very casual watching. It was National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, Elf, and I don't remember the name, but it was the new Lindsay Lohan Christmas movie on Netflix.
Oh yeah, was it good? Was there anything redeemable in that movie?
Okay.
I'm not even say was it good.
So, the acting was bad.
Yep.
The story was bad.
I can tell from the trailer. Yep.
The characters were probably the best part about the film, and there was a level of camp and, to be generous, some self-awareness about it just being kind of bad that made it palatable, I'll say.
All right,
I was able to sit through it and not really roll my eyes or be like, I don't want to watch this anymore.
This is going to be weird, but did Lindsay Lohan drink pilk in that movie?
As far as I remember, at no point was Pepsi and milk ever mixed.
Because I was listening to a podcast. I was listening to the Judges podcast, and they were talking about how on something new that Lindsay Lohan's doing, she was drinking pilk. But
Maybe
if
she
it
did.
wasn't in that,
I could have missed
I,
it. Although
no,
I feel like me
I
and
think
Emma
it's
would have.
very it's very upfront that I think it might be an
Yeah,
ad for something.
yeah. I think me and Emma would have immediately noticed that.
Yeah, speaking of Christmas movies, I watched Love Hard, the one that came out last year, about a guy that catfishes a girl and she comes to meet him on Christmas Day. And she loves Die Hard is her favorite Christmas movie, and his is Love Actually. Hence Love Hard. Pretty bad, pretty horrible. Don't watch it. There's not a lot of good Christmas movies that aren't like the
It's like we've
classics.
been watching some
Yeah.
stinkers.
Also, I'm halfway through It's a Wonderful Life. Abigail, I've never seen it before. I don't know how I've never seen It's a Wonderful Life. We're halfway through and we haven't even got to Christmas yet. We're an hour in. I said, Abigail, how is this a Christmas movie? Have y'all seen it?
No.
Oh, no.
Well, spoiler. Hour into the movie and there's no Christmas involved. Never. And we've gone through like 20 years of his
Christmas
life.
heavy second half, maybe.
Hopefully. But I said, Abigail, you tired? And she said, yeah. I said, I'll watch the rest without you. I
know that Chase had mentioned this movie before for maybe a future episode that we should do, but I was recently gifted by the ALA department over Christmas break Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. So I'm ready to actually read something that's not a comic book, watch the movie, and then maybe we can do a little discussion.
Oh, that movie! That movie fucks. I love that movie so much. It may have been that I was in Savannah watching it. That movie's so good. There's something.
Is it a new movie?
No, not at all. It is super old.
No.
Yeah, it's very, very old.
Kevin Spacey.
Kevin Spacey
Spacey?
He plays a gay man who is dating a younger man. Not great. Not great for now. It's kind of apt. I don't want to spoil anything, but what happens to him is very apt. I think that movie is great. I personally absolutely adore Savannah, Georgia. After going back there, it's been like 10 years since I went there, and we went there on our honeymoon, and it was I love it so much. It's such a cool town, and there's so much history, so much culture, so much flavor there. I think that it really captures Savannah in a very accurate and very loving light, and I love that film.
Well, perfect. I think by the time read the book, watch the movie, Zach, by that point, you and me will have a wedding that we'll be attending in Savannah. I think it'll be the perfect time to do a podcast.
Yeah, I need to RSVP to that wedding.
Yes, you do.
But
and on that note,
Abigail's already texted her that told that we're coming. So
you're good. Well, any last thoughts about Avatar 2: The Way of Water before we say goodbye to these lovely people?
Watch it.
If you're gonna hate on it, please just watch it first. And then I will respect anyone's opinion if it's valid criticism.
Sounds good to me.
It's as simple as I just didn't like it. That works. Just watch it.
Make sure you follow us. I forget our Twitter every time we do this. Follow us. Is it
closed screening? At just closed screening.
On TikTok, it is.
I need to give you the passwords, Chase, so you can.
Yeah, so I can post.
Start tweeting from it.
TikTok. I don't. I'm busy, but eventually I'll upload some new content to our TikTok. Besides that one clip of me hating on Tony Camilleri.
Bathtub guy.
Yeah. Emma saw it on her For You page, and I was like, oh no.
Was she following?
How did it pop up? It just popped up. When I posted that TikTok of my tattoo, it popped up on hers. It popped up on my sister's For You page. And it only got like 500 views, but somehow.
Dang, that's actually kind of sick, though.
We need to start militarizing our friends to like and share our TikToks and run up the numbies and get the algo working for us.
Hey, we have 5 followers.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, it's me, you, Nicholas, Will, and some guy named Ron Reed.
I mean, I would remember right after I posted TikTok, Ron's a day one. Ron was following our TikTok.
Ron's a
right
day
after.
oneer.
Shout out Ron. Hope you're listening.
Maybe
bro.
Ron is
Ron.
still listening.
I hope so, Ron. Sorry we haven't been posting regularly, but it's gonna continue.
Should we commit to one every 2 weeks?
No. I think we're working off of a like bi or tri-monthly schedule.
You know,
That's
but,
what we
like,
can commit to.
I think that
No.
we can make no just we can I think we can stockpile some like in the relative future of like
Okay.
we're all probably gonna see Knives Out too
Probably.
because it's on Netflix. Have you seen the first Knives Out, Chase?
Yes, that was the first film Emma and I actually went to together. With a
Oh,
bunch of our
how
friends.
precious.
But, yeah, so I'm sure we'll watch the second one.
Well,
So then the second one's on Netflix. We can all watch that. We can talk about that one. That's boom.
we
Second
can talk
episode.
about Nightmare, Midnight.
Dude, that's the
Garden
third
of Good and
episode.
Evil.
I'm sure
give
that
some
I'm
shout.
sure there'll be more on Netflix or something.
Yeah, we can definitely.
I don't know if
talk
y'all
about
have
some
I'll
a-
stuff.
definitely be watching Ant-Man and the Wasp for sure in February.
I'm not sure if y'all have a time to go watch another 3-hour movie, but Babylon comes out on Thursday. I guess that's tomorrow, isn't it?
tomorrow.
I think I'm gonna make the trek to my local theater that has horrible seats and sit through it tomorrow.
I cannot commit myself to going to another 3-hour movie.
Yeah, because they're a bunch of babies.
I have
They don't know
ADHD,
what real
bro.
art is. Real art occurs at the 3-hour mark.
Hey,
I
James
have
Cameron
ADHD, bro.
said
I can't.
James Cameron said any scene that you missed when you went to go pee, just go watch the movie again.
Yeah,
Just go see it again.
fuck
The
that.
thing is, I would go see it again, but that 3-hour, like when you watch the movie for the first time, 3 hours, it doesn't feel like 3 hours. But I guarantee you, if you watch that movie a second time, it's gonna feel like 3 hours.
I can definitely see that. Well, folks, I think we've said everything we need to say about Avatar. I think we have hit all our bases, got all our ducks in a row, everything. So with that, I want to say thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and we'll see you whenever the fuck we see you again. Bye.